This is Hammett.
And Jessica.
And you're listening to the Friendly Atheist Podcast. Please go to patreon.com/Friendly Atheist Podcast. And if you give $5 a month, you will get ad-free episodes. Mm-hmm. And we have an actual announcement.
I know.
Of random fun stuff.
So, yeah, First of all, I'm going to be in Denver in a few weeks. So if you want to come to the Someplace Else brewery in Arvada, Colorado, and that is going to be on August 5th. But the new announcement that we are getting to make, because Hammett doesn't know how to be sarcastic on Facebook, we're having a Chicago-based meetup for with both of us. It is going to be on August 28th, which is a Saturday. It'll be at 5 o'clock. It's going to be at Fat Cat, which is the same place it was, 2 or 3 years ago when we had one, which cannot believe that was that long ago. So
Save
5 o'clock.
The date.
Yeah, it's
if you're in or around Chicago.
Yeah, it's in Uptown in Chicago. It's right off the Red Line stop, just a little bit north of it, kind of by like Green Mills right there. It's my old neighborhood. It's my favorite bar, which is why we picked there, and because I crushed myself trying to make an arbitrary decision. So 5 o'clock, August 28th at Fat Cat. Hammett and I will be hanging out.
Look forward to getting out of the house for the first time.
Yes.
2.5 years. I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be fun stuff for you. But I hopefully by the time this gets up, or definitely by the time this gets up, because I promised Hammett I would make an event page for it. So that'll be on Facebook, or I'm sure you can. I mean, I just told you the details, so you can just write those down your calendar, I guess.
Sweet.
I can't do all the work for you, man. Come on. Take some personal responsibility.
I'll show up. That's my responsibility. I was trying to debate where to start. Let's start with some good news, which is that someone was arrested on Wednesday of this week because she was selling fake COVID vaccination cards.
Oh, Jesus.
And selling, quote, homeopathic pellets.
What? A homeopath is a scam artist? I can't believe it.
That she said would protect patients from the virus. This is Julie Mazie, who is a naturopath and then doctor in big quote hands because it's not really a doctor.
Does she have like a PhD?
No.
Okay,
she
so it's completely fraudulent.
From one of those fraud naturopathic
Oh, I see. Yes.
schools. She's basically a homeopath, a naturopath, which is like, I'm a doctor who couldn't get into medical school, so I'm a real doctor, sure. And people who don't know the difference will be like, oh, you sound like you know what, look, I see the white coat.
Yeah, exactly.
And no, she's actually just telling them, you don't have to take the vaccine. I'll give you a fake card. And by the way, look, I have these pellets with some COVID inside, but like little faintness COVID specks, which are diluted, and if you take this pellet, you'll be cured, which is not how anything works.
No.
And this week, the Department of Justice arrested her. She faces
on
up to
federal crime?
Federal crime.
Fuck.
Because, basically...
Well, I'm sure she fucks with out-of-state people, right?
This is from their announcement. Family members purchased from her COVID-19 they have different words, more scientific, but they purchased these pellets, and family members told the whistleblower, who eventually contacted the feds, family members told that person that Mazie stated that the pellets contained the COVID-19 virus and would create an antibody response in the immune system. She also sent COVID-19 vaccination record cards with Moderna listed to the family.
Jesus.
She instructed the family to mark the cards to falsely state that they received the Moderna vaccine on the date that they ingested the pellets. Mm-hmm. And the best part about it is if you read the charging documents, they have transcripts of calls that were made to her office and to her specifically, where they're like, I don't know if those, I can't remember if they were like purposely like, we're just trying to record you, so like we're going to ask leading questions. But they're like, what do you want us to do with these fake cards? And she's like, well, sign your date here, blah, blah, blah. I'll take care of it from there. Like, she's fessing to all of it.
Yeah.
And like her website is
not
just
especially sneaky, is she?
Not even close. I had all those Varsity Blues scandal, the test cheating scandal.
Oh, sure.
In mind, because that's the same level of these people have no shame about what they're doing.
Right.
Where they're openly bragging about it over the phone.
Yeah. I mean, at least use like thin code words, you know? Like, I've got the snow. Don't just say like, hey, there's a pile of cocaine I'm trying to sell. Would you like some, please?
Right. No code words in the transcript. Like, even Jim Baker, after when one of his guests was saying, I have this silver solution and it's totally a cure, even Jim Baker was like, we just had the guest on. We weren't promoting it. This lady is actively promoting the lies. She, faces up to 20 years in jail. That's not a small thing. Doesn't mean it'll happen.
Yeah.
But someone's actually facing consequences for lying about the virus, which doesn't seem to happen as often as it should.
Seems quite wild to me that this is the first big case
Yeah.
Like, I really genuinely, unless like people are just better at being sneaky about it. I
have read stories about people giving away fake cards, or you could find them online and stuff like that.
Yeah, I have no idea I don't know how they would protect them against like somebody just buying the right card stock and printing it out.
But when a doctor in quote hands says like, no, here's the card.
No, she's a fucking monster.
Yeah.
Jesus.
We'll have the link for it, but seriously, read the complaint. It's beautiful. She's arrested on Wednesday.
I assume you would have said if they connected any illnesses to her directly?
We don't know. And the reason is because we don't know how many patients were affected. They do know how many people bought stuff.
Sure.
But they don't necessarily know the same deal with COVID itself. Like how many people were infected with COVID as a result of going to some large gathering? Well, we can't trace all of their steps right now.
Because we didn't do tracking because
we're America.
Yeah.
Her website, by the way, is just this batshit crazy page after page of junk. And at one point, she has the herbs and spices that can help you treat liver ailments. To which my buddy Paul Fidalgo, writing for the Center for Inquiry's Morning Heresy, said she has a Kentucky Fried Chicken approach to medicine, which is the highest compliment I'm sure she's ever received.
Well, that's a pretty good goof.
So good. There's a consequence.
See, that's funny. Yeah, glad to see consequences. Sad that it happened. Where did you say it was? Florida?
Oh, no. I think California, is where she's
that
from.
tracks. That would have been my second guess. I don't know why I thought Florida.
And there's a new movie coming out.
Oh.
We saw the trailer this week.
Oh.
God's Not Dead 4.
There was a third?
True story. If you go to the comments section underneath the trailer, one YouTube commenter, in all sincerity, was like, I hated the first two. And the response to that was, there was a third. Which is accurate.
Very funny. I was unaware. Because I can picture the big two. I can picture like that cover, the
God's
poster.
Not Dead, Fast and Furious, whatever.
Yeah.
Electric Boogaloo. I don't remember the subtitle.
God's Not Dead and Furious.
Yeah.
That's nothing. Mike, you'd be much better at this than me.
I'll give you some numbers in just a second, but here's what this trailer...
God's Not Furious? No, that's nothing. Go.
Too Fast, Too Furious, yeah. It's called God's Not Dead 4 is actually titled God's Not Dead, We the People.
God's Not Dead, Tokyo Drift. Fucking nailed it. Good job, Jessica.
If you watch the trailer...
I wasn't listening. I was just thinking my thing.
Close. No, it's all good. God's Not Dead, We the People.
Yeah.
Do you know, based on that, what this movie is about? Because, again, the first one was about the philosophy professor and the young Christian student.
Yeah, that one I've seen.
Second one was Melissa Joan Hart in a public school
Bless her
doing
heart.
something.
Bless
the
her,
third
Melissa
one
Joan Hart.
doesn't actually exist. It's like that Shazam movie with Sinbad or something. And this one, what is the big conflict?
People.
We the People.
Oh, God. I think it is going to be a Christian take on National Treasure.
So something in Washington, they're trying to steal the Constitution. David Barton.
No, what I think... No, you didn't let me finish.
Okay.
I was really gearing up my elevator pitch for this great movie that I'm definitely going to produce.
Yes.
So it is a la National Treasure in that instead of there being a map on the back of the Declaration of Independence that Nick Cage then has to try to steal. Yes, I did watch it on the 4th of July. Thank you. But there is, a prayer. There's a prayer on the back of the Declaration of Independence signed by TJ himself, and they're going to use that to confirm, it's a broken, no, I got it. It's a code that if you use it on the front of the Declaration of Independence, it spells out, God bless America. Honestly, I would watch that movie.
I mean, it's better than the script that they actually have.
Okay, tell me.
All right, here's what we got. I mean, based on the trailer, if you knew nothing else, 90% of the trailer is stock footage video of, like, if you search patriotism. So you have the waving flag,
Sure.
cheering crowds.
Apple pie.
There's a courtroom involved.
Police murdering black people. Americana.
There's a courtroom involved, and you literally have a senator screaming to the main character.
No.
What is the senator saying to the Christian who keeps talking?
Separation of church and state.
You are out of order.
Oh, he stole from Aaron Sorkin.
I think he was trying to, but that's not Sorkin-esque in any meaningful way.
No, yeah.
It's just cliche courtroom drama.
Yes.
You have an obligatory cameo, not from Kevin Sorbo, but from Janine Pirro of Fox News.
Isn't she a real judge? Isn't she actually,
And she plays a judge, I believe.
On
TV. In this movie.
Okay.
This movie is about homeschooling Christian families. Here's the best way I could try to explain what's going on, because I haven't seen the movie. I'm working off the trailer, too. Mm-hmm. But it sounds like liberals in Washington have passed some sort of public education bill that requires oversight of homeschooling Christian families.
First problem.
Yes.
The Democrats, A, don't pass anything, B, that's actually good, C.
Yeah.
So far we have careened out of reality.
Yeah, I think there's a public education bill that the homeschooling Christian parents are very upset about, to the point where one homeschooling
they'd have to teach their kid math, and Jesus hated math.
One Christian homeschooling daddy says in the movie...
Don't say daddy.
Sorry. Religion has been removed from our schools. They're teaching kids that they don't need God, which is not a thing that happens.
Yeah.
And then the guy who's kind of behind all of these God's Not Dead films,
Kevin Sorbo,
David A.R. White, who is also running the movie studio behind this, who decided he was the best choice to play the main character in the movie nobody saw, God's Not Dead 3, reprises his character.
Sure, because the third one did well. He knows what audience wants.
As the pastor who's going to corral all these homeschooling Christian parents to go to D.C. and make their stand against the senator who's like, you're out of control, and order in my court. Or
Mr. Bigot Goes to Washington. Is that funny? I think I could have done better.
Good. I think it's a federal overreach of homeschooling Christian parents. But just to be clear, there have been pushes to try to get some oversight into homeschooling, because the problem is a lot of these Christian kids who graduate, in big quote hands, from homeschooling have said, I wasn't taught the basics about this subject or that subject.
Math, or, I don't know, history feels pretty useful these days.
Yeah, science, I know nothing. And when I went to college, whether it was for a Christian college or a regular secular college, I just wasn't prepared.
Sure.
And the problem is, the thing you could do is say, well, parents, tell us what subjects you're teaching your kids in. Make sure they get the bare minimum. There's no test the kids have to take. But it would be nice to make sure there's no oversight. That also means you're looking out for the kids' well-being, accountability, make sure there's no abuse of any kind. There is some bare minimum stuff that you would think responsible parents would want to get behind. But the Christian homeschooling movement, by and large, has said, I want no interaction with you. You have no right to have any say in what I do with my kids. To the point where if they're not educating their kids, they want the government out of their way too. Yeah. And that's the problem here. So I assume that's the basis of this movie.
Yeah, it probably comes from a sense of ownership of your kids instead of stewardship. If I'm raising different humans from me, it's more they don't hear anything I don't say to them.
By the way, speaking of Aaron Sorkin, they have a part in the trailer where the David A.R. White pastor character
does a bunch of blow.
Who's making a speech to the senators that I assume will be his big Mr. Smith Goes to Washington moment. Again, what's the most cliche thing they can think of to say? He says, basically, no, this is a government of the people, by the people, for the people. And then everybody stands and cheers. And
the
again,
dome collapses and an eagle flies out of the building.
it's like, really? That's the best you could do? That's your script?
Yeah, I mean, when you're literally pulling every line in your movie from a different movie, it really limits your sources.
I'm honest, I don't even know who the atheist is in this movie. Like, they gotta have a token atheist. That's like
But
going
there's
to
no
a buffet.
atheists in the Senate. And wait a second, education isn't education a huge states' right issue? Why would there be a federal law? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, they have a Department of Education.
Yeah,
they can
yeah.
do some basic stuff.
Yeah.
By the way, the funniest thing to me about this is the poster for God's Not Dead 4 has the David A.R. White character at that, what's it called, the reflecting pool in Washington, looking at the Washington Monument, like wistfully. Meanwhile, the audience that this movie is geared toward, the white evangelical Christians, include the people who tried to overrun the Capitol.
Oh, I remember that.
Like, you can't say, oh, Washington, a beautiful place. Let's overthrow the friggin' government.
I mean, Hammett, why do you think these people have any intellectual consistency? Like, they don't understand their sense of irony that they're doing, and they don't understand the sense of... Did you hear that, like, some chick got fucking arrested this week because she stepped on a... Have you not heard this?
Which one?
A woman was at a protest or somewhere.
Yeah.
And she saw a back the blue sign on the ground and she stomped on it and gave a cop a smirky look and he fucking arrested her. So
On the nose right there. Feeding
anyway,
every stereotype.
I do think that maybe those on the right don't quite understand that they can't be pro and anti-cancel culture. No, nor can they be pro and anti the government.
I cannot believe cancel culture is not the basis for this movie.
They were probably writing the script before cancel. He's probably been working on the script for years.
2019. They've been working on it since 2019 because he announced it in 2019. They aired not a trailer, but they said late last year, David A.R. White was on like an Instagram video, posting an Instagram video where he's like, we're about to start filming in Oklahoma. Here's the script. And you could see on there too, it was like the first draft was written in 2019. So it's been around for a little while. By the way, just so to give you some numbers, the first God's Not Dead with Kevin Sorbo as the atheist philosophy professor, legit phenomenon in the sense that for a very small budget, they actually made $64 million
Oh, yeah,
from
it was
that
a
movie.
high-
That was in 2014.
I think all these movies were pretty successful.
God's Not Dead 2, $24 million.
What was the budget? Do you know?
No, I don't. It had to be less than 24.
Oh,
though.
yeah,
So they made
100%.
money on that. God's Not Dead 3, called God's Not Dead: A Light in Darkness, made $7 million. Which at that point, I have to wonder if they're even covering all their costs.
I'm gonna look up.
And so who knows how this one's going to do. And to give you another metric for that one, like one way to calculate how successful a movie is to see how much a theater takes in its opening weekend. So God's Not Dead 1, every theater made an average of about 11,800 its first weekend. God's Not Dead 2, they made about 3,100. God's Not Dead 3, they made 1,500. And again, these keep going down.
Sure.
And so I don't really know what's going to happen with this one. All we know is it's going to be released in the fall. We don't know the date. And interestingly enough, the trailer says in theaters this fall. But how many theaters? Because theaters are having a rough go when you're not a Marvel movie. And I don't know if it's just direct to streaming. And if so, which thing they're going to do. I think Sony Pictures bought out PureFlix. So, like, it's not like they don't have a distribution vessel here. But I don't know how it's going to do. By the way, I said God's Not Dead 3 took in $1,588 that first weekend.
Screen?
You know what made more money than that its opening weekend? Kirk Cameron's Saving Christmas, which IMDb has ranked as one of the worst movies of all time.
Yeah, man. Well,
Who wanted
I mean,
a fourth God's Not... Here,
they're starved for content.
here's the other thing. I said I can't even tell who the atheist is in this movie.
There's
Why
definitely
is
a
it-
black lady atheist senator.
Maybe. I don't even know why it's called God's Not Dead, because I don't think God comes up in the trailer as much. I mean, at all, other than there are Christian characters. But I mean, this is the thing that they're doing. They're just saying, like, God's Not Dead 1, huge hit.
Right.
Let's just use that and then append some random subtitle to it. Like, by their logic, you could make God's Not Dead 5,
Right.
insert whatever grievance you want to complain about here,
Right.
and just say, yeah, it's part of the franchise. Look,
Right.
we held over this ancillary character, therefore it's there's canon here.
Yeah,
So,
no,
I don't
we're
know.
building the God's Not Deadiverse.
Cinematic universe,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's so the budgets for the God's Not Deads were the first one. The budget was $2 million. The second one, the budget was $5 million,
And they made what, 24 million on the second movie.
on the second, yeah, and the first one you said $68 million.
64,
Huge
yeah.
success.
Huge. Third one?
Third one, budget $2 million.
Okay, so they
they all
recouped
made
their
money.
costs, which is why they're still doing it.
Yeah,
but at
I
this
mean-
point, they have nothing to do with theology or arguing between atheists and Christians. It is just right-wing grievance.
Yes.
Under the God's Not Dead label.
And movies are getting easier to make. Not, well, I want to be very clear. The qualifier is any movie is easy to make. Good quality movies still require people with talent, but like, everybody's fucking iPhone is a better camera than what they shot E.T. on or whatever. I don't know. Don't come after me, Spielberg stans. Anyway, yeah, no, they're gonna keep rocking these out like the same way fucking Hallmark.
I wonder how many they're going to go. Well, which
this
Hallmark
could be
ones?
all of them.
Like
all the
the-
Christmas ones.
all
They
the
come out with 25 a year.
They do.
But
They're all independent, like random one-offs.
Sure. But they're in the same I think these are in the same like umbrella of this is going to be a David and Goliath movie where David is the good Christian man just trying to raise his family and keep his lawn tidy, and the other one is that Goliath is a big mean atheist who maybe has a lectern or possibly a lapel mic, and so they're Goliath. So you're always going to get the same thing. Same thing with Hallmark movies. You're gonna get a meet cute, you're gonna get a fall in love too fast, you're gonna get a little fight, they think they're gonna break up forever, and then guess what? They're gonna get back together at the end. It's called a formula, my friends, and it works.
Nice. Oh yeah, you did have the obligatory Christian music at the end of the trailer. God's not dead, he's really alive.
That's how God's
Their
not dead,
lyrics
it's
are
really
not
alive.
subtle either. The lyrics are as good as the script.
I'm gonna get at my poetry book from junior high and see if they can make anything out of that because
it's really the height of YouTube
I wrote
era.
some bangers.
Yeah, YouTube poetry books that are like one word every page. It's like, this is my poetry.
Did you ever have to make poetry that was in the shape of something?
Yes.
Mine was about an ice cream cone, I think.
Yes.
I think everybody's was about an ice cream cone.
You long for the complexity of a haiku. Yeah. Have you heard of a show called Kevin Can Fuck Himself?
It's on my to watch list because I really like Annie Murphy from Schitt's Creek.
Do you know what the show is about?
I actually I almost said don't tell me because I want to watch it,
Oh, yeah.
but I realized what we were doing, and this isn't just you and I
This isn't a
hanging out.
podcast where it's a secret for everything. Yeah. So
Okay,
the
fine,
show, if
fucking
you've seen
spoil
like
it for me.
a typical sitcom where you have the schlubby husband and the way too hot for him wife.
Got Annie
So
Murphy's
whatever,
perfection.
insert your show here where it's a sitcom just like that. Everybody Loves Raymond,
King of
King of Queens,
Queens.
things like that. It's a riff on that where
Yes,
you have the
dear.
sitcom like that with the husband who's like, I'm
Family
funny.
Guy.
Yeah, and the wife who's hot. And then from what I could tell from the trailers, because I haven't seen the show, the wife like exits the
All in the Family's
sitcom-y stage, and when she exits the door with the laundry basket or whatever, it's like, oh, this is a dark, like Breaking Bad style drama, like because you
funny.
see it from the wife's perspective,
Sure.
and there's shit going on. So that's the idea. It's a riff on that trope of the schlubby husband, hot wife. But anyway, it's meant for adults. It's TVMA. It's airing on the network AMC.
The word fuck is in the title,
The word fuck
so
is in the title. And there's like, if you look at the promotional posters, it's the wife giving 2 middle fingers to the camera, basically.
my mom asked if I had watched it, but she called it. She called it Kevin Can Go F Himself.
Oh,
Because my
nice.
mom's
That's
a fucking
nice.
lady.
So we've talked about 1 Million Moms, which is the Christian mom group that wants to get all the
Love
kid
those
show
girls.
girl. Yeah, they want to get all the kid shows
Yeah.
canceled because they aired a lesbian couple that exists.
Yeah,
And
you hate to see it.
look at that commercial that featured a family with 2 mommies. Oh my God. Boycott.
And that's why all children are gay now.
Yes, it's a law. They're going after this show. And when I saw that email, I'm like, why?
On that email list?
I am on the
No
email
wonder they
list.
think they have 1 million followers.
I know. I feed into that. But I was like, what are you mad about? I mean, I know what the show is
swear word?
generally about. Is it the title? That it has a title? No.
Oh.
Here's from their email. This is from Monica Cole, who is their one member, their one mom. It is almost impossible to describe the depth of depravity found in the new sitcom Kevin Can Fuck Himself. They have
F-star,
asterisks in the actual title, which are replicated here. It airs on AMC with a TV MA rating, which, again, means for adults, mature adults, not for kids.
Not
She
for
says,
this woman who is not a mature adult.
The name itself tells you how awful the show is and needs to be taken off the air. I'll just read one more
Just
thing.
mad at existing.
Yeah, the new program is horrendous. The commercials alone show a woman giving the viewers the middle finger with both hands.
Both hands.
The language is terrible also. It is impossible to list every offense here. This dark and twisted sitcom is in its first season and needs to be its last. Okay, here's what I'm trying to figure out. Why is she mad at an adult show aimed at adults that doesn't have anything to do with children and has no reason that a mom would want to? I mean, there are way more risque, dramatic,
I'm pulling up.
nudity, violent shows on TV than this.
Yeah.
So why this? Why? I mean, there's nothing in there that says they're marketing it to kids. I don't know what she's mad about other than I feel like there's got to be a quota in her employment contract that says you got to be angry every
At
4 hours
something.
publicly.
Yeah.
And so she's like, oh no. Oh, yep, new show. Let's go.
Yeah, they have... AMC has The Walking Dead. They have Killing Eve. They have...
She could be mad about a lot of
they had fucking
things.
Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul. Like, they have shit that's worth being... Well, no, I don't think it's worth being angry. They have shit that's ostensibly worse than, like, a sitcom that says the F word
Than
in
a
the title.
mom who displays emotions to
Yeah.
the camera. Forget whatever horrible thing she may be doing. The whole thing of it is, hey, you know that mom on those shows? She has a life too.
Right.
She's not always happy-go-lucky. She's not always okay with what her husband does. It's a mom being a regular human.
Well-
and this mom is like, you're ruining my TV family trope.
And I know you can't protect your children from everything, but I would think, like...
It's not airing after Daniel Tiger.
Right, it's an AMC sitcom, and not to like denigrate the good work that the people at AMC do, but it's not exactly like fucking Nick Jr. or even NBC that arguably a kid might be watching. Like,
Right, it's not made for primetime on network TV.
wasn't
It's
Mad Men on AMC too?
probably yes.
So they've dealt with adultery and swearing and just like full on fucking and
I don't know what she's mad about, other than like these are the same people who complain about cancel culture, and here she is calling for a boycott of an adult show aimed at adults because she finds it vulgar. Which, all right, fine, you don't have to watch it, but again, what are you mad about? I don't understand what this group's philosophy is, because at least when they're complaining about lesbians on Blue's Clues or whatever they're mad about, it's like, okay, you're wrong.
what is she mad about?
Like, but at least your aim is like they're ruining kids' lives.
Right.
Or that's their script. What is she mad about here? I still haven't figured it out, and I read through the entire boycott press release
and it's not
and
that
the petition
the
she wants
word
everyone to sign.
fuck is in the title where people can see it.
No.
So she just wants it pulled off the air because she doesn't like it.
That's as far as I can
Well,
tell.
good,
Like,
because I have a list of a lot of shit that I think needs to get pulled off the air. And if she finds any success, I'd like her to give me a call and see what we can do about that.
this is not national news of any kind, but I wanted to run this by you, and I want to see what you think about this. Did you see the Spelling Bee? Do you watch the Spelling Bee?
No, I don't watch the spelling bee, but I know a black woman or a black girl one.
A black girl won. She was fantastic.
Last year didn't
I
like
watch
6
it.
kids
It's like brown person
tie?
Super Bowl.
Well, yeah, that's I was gonna say
Yeah, the
I'm white, but I thought
Octochamps.
that would be the Octochamps.
They have a name. Get it right. Show some respect.
I'm sorry, did
But
we
here's
just
the thing.
disrespect brown culture?
How dare you? If you're watching the spelling bee, here's the thing. Like, of course, the words are impossible. You've never heard of them, and those kids can spell it. That's the impressiveness of it all. But here's the thing. Like, if you watch the spelling bee and you take it mildly seriously, what do those kids ask for when they are told what word to spell?
The origin.
Yeah, they want to know the origin. Why? Because if you know it comes from a certain country or a certain language of origin, you might be able to figure out like certain spellings or
absolutely.
endings or beginnings. That stuff helps you if you know the derivation of it, whatever.
Yeah.
Part of speech, use it in a sentence because that might help you solve it. And again, you could see that throughout if you know the origin, whatever. Okay, it doesn't matter if you know that, but that's why those kids are asking those questions. And the idea is they're not just asking these kids to spell random, obscure words.
Right.
These are words you could theoretically figure out if you know some stuff.
Yeah, it's sort of becomes sort of algebra at a point of like, okay, you need these elements, but like, how do you come up with a ch sound? Is it CZ? Is it CH?
And if you watch the commentary, which is always amusing because it's on ESPN, but you could see them saying
in their zone.
Yeah, you could see the commentators saying this kid looks like they're struggling. I don't know that they know how to spell this. And the problem is there's a schwa in the middle that could be any vowel. And that's where they're getting tripped up in their head right now, trying to figure out which one it is. Okay, so the whole point is there's a lot of the words that you could theoretically figure out if you knew enough. And that's what they're trying to do in spelling. Okay, that's why it would totally be a stupid thing to do if they gave the kids random obscure words that they could not figure out, that they maybe had never heard of. Because what's the point of that? And this is the common criticism of the spelling bee. Who cares? How does this help you in life? It's like a party trick. It doesn't actually help you because they're spelling words no one actually uses, by and large. But again, the argument from the spelling people is, no, it's about word origins and roots, and you can figure this out. And linguistics.
And parts of speech.
We've talked about this anti-gay hate preacher, Jonathan Shelley, the Steadfast Baptist Church in Texas. We talked about him because he's all for the execution of gay people by the government. He thinks the Bible calls for that. I'm not even talking about that right now. His church announced this week they're having a conference coming up. They're gonna have a Bible spelling bee. And I was like, okay, I want to know what your rules are. How does this actually work? And they literally put out there, I mean, I don't know where they got this from, but they have a little document that explains, here's what we're asking kids to do if they want to participate. And it says, for little kids, here's the word list.
Sure.
We'll give it to you. Here's the basics. Here's the advanced for the little kids. And you know what? If everyone does awesome on the advanced, we'll move up to the next level. Okay, fine. But the words are straight up just, we stole these words from, we took these words from the Bible, the King James version of the Bible. Here are the words. I mean, some of the words are like funny because they're like infidel, reprobate, concubine.
So these are for the older kids, right?
Some, yes.
Okay.
But also they have
Toddlers
words.
aren't spelling concubine.
Yeah, I know. No, toddlers have to spell evil, vile, tempt. There are words that are not controversial at all, too. But here's my problem with it. What is the point of that other than to memorize the spelling? That's it.
Yeah.
That's why I think this is a stupid idea. This is just a pet peeve. This is not a big issue. I'm saying this is a stupid spelling bee that awards kids for sitting down and memorizing stuff they don't need to know, as opposed to the actual spelling bee you see on TV, which rewards linguistics. This is just, can you spell the long word in the Bible? How do you spell Beelzebub? Can you figure it out? Like, no, if you don't know it, you're screwed. That's a stupid thing to do. It's like saying, let's memorize Bible verses. Who cares? Tell me the context. Tell me why anyone needs to know this verse. What is the point of memorizing it? They've had Bible bee shows. Jeff Foxworthy hosted a Bible game show. And it's all stupid because there's no understanding of anything needed. I don't know why you're laughing at me. I'm very mad about this.
Because now I know what it's like to be Hemet and have a person rambling
I
passionately.
hate you so much right now. I will die on a hill to fight against these stupid Bible spelling bees where they're like, what do you, if they don't know Deuteronomy, what are you going to do to help them out?
Make
nothing.
them watch more
There's
cats.
nothing you can do. It's wasting time. And I know this is like the 97th thing that's wrong with this church. But come on, if you're going to have a bee, tell the kids to learn something.
But their whole thing is memorizing the Bible. Like, they do it like party tricks.
I know.
And so I agree with you, but once again, as often is the case, I agree with you, but I'm concerned by your surprise in this situation. All they do is memorize shit. That's everybody's favorite thing. Is like, can you quote number and verse?
I don't like
chapter
memorizing rain. Okay.
No,
people said this about Jeopardy. It's like, oh, it's a trivia show. You just know stupid stuff. And of course, the argument is no, like that show, as opposed to, I don't know, name your other trivia show. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Which is, do you know this? If you don't know it, you're pretty much screwed. Whereas,
and it's multiple choice.
But like different. At least on Jeopardy, which is open ended, it's like, no, they kind of give you a clue in there if you know what to look for.
Sure. No,
I can defend that. I can defend the actual spelling bee. I can't defend memorize the spelling of a long Bible word as if you are accomplishing anything to be proud of.
Do you ever do bar trivia?
No, because I also find that stupid.
Well, there we go. I think I've just figured it out.
Some of them might be able to ask interesting questions. But again, it's the pub trivia problem is a lot of the stuff they ask is if you don't know it, there's no way to figure it out. You either know it or you don't.
Counterpoint,
you're drunk. It doesn't even matter.
Counterpoint, bar trivia is awesome. Second counterpoint, in the one I go to or used to go to in the before times, they would play a little song that had a little clue in it. So, up yours, McGillicuddy. That's from 30 Rock.
Nice.
I'm not very funny today. Okay. First of all, I recently was listening to a podcast that talked about spelling bees that I think you'd appreciate. It's called Word Matters. It's by the Merriam-Webster Dictionary. They're like a little...
Where I get all my podcasts.
Where you get... Listen, everybody makes fun of me for listening to this podcast, but guess what? It's really very interesting. And they just talked about why spelling bees are important because you learn about origins of words and how languages work and how like a French... If you know something is French versus Latin-based, it's going to be a different thing. It's a very good podcast. It turns out when we use like fancy words, we use French words, but when we use like more ordinary words, we use Latin-based words. Anyway, the English language is really cool. Did you know no other languages in the world have to have a spelling bee because they make sense? That's 100% true thing.
I believe it.
Like, if you've ever... do you speak any other languages?
Yes.
Okay.
Could I do anything in the language? No.
So I took Spanish growing up, and
I can understand Gujarati. I couldn't spell it for you or
I was
write it.
gonna say, like, I don't know, because it's a different alphabet. Yeah. That's a whole different fucking kettle of fish. But lost my train of thought. I guess it was boring. Oh no, good. When you learn Spanish, at least it's like you hear a word and you know how it's spelled because every letter makes one sound, and that sound only changes if there's like an accent or so. But it's internally consistent, unlike the English language, which is a waking nightmare that we all have to live through every day.
Yes,
I'm done. End of rant.
End of rant.
End of English language rant.
So I want to give a shout out to our sponsor.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait to hear about this.
Yeah, I was trying to get a present for my parents who are like notoriously hard to please. So, okay, get this. I took a picture of my kids, one of the few that like, oh, that's a cute picture.
Yeah.
I uploaded it at a place called paintyourlife.com. And they said, I mean, the whole point of the site is they said they could turn it into a professional hand-painted image of pretty much anything. So I'm like, all right, well, here's the picture. And over the course, like, I got to pick the artist. I don't know who the artists are, but they recommend some. Or I could say, or I say you pick, and I'm fine with whoever you choose. I had a bunch of opportunities to see drafts of the painting as they're going along, saying like, do you want to modify this in any way? Do you want, I mean, makes it very easy to say, can you change this or can you fix this? Or like, oh, their hair is off kilter there. Do whatever. So like multiple chances to do that and like super easy. So this week I finally got the final product and I showed it to my mom and like her face is one I've never seen for myself. It's like, she enjoyed it and she's like, oh, this is like an actual nice.
Wow.
She loved that.
Are you saying you made your mother happy for the first time
That's
in your miserable life.
That's exactly what I'm getting at. So like, awesome gift. It's super personal.
Do you have an image of it? Can I come look?
Not on me right now, but I will show it to you. It's personal. It's different. They will take any picture you've got, and the quality, I will say, super awesome.
Cool.
So just to give you some more information here, if you go to paintyourlife.com, there's no risk. If you don't love the final painting, your money is refunded, guaranteed. And right now they have a limited time offer. You can get 20% off your painting, 20% off and free shipping. And to get that special offer, text the word friendly to 64,000. That's friendly to 64,000. If you text friendly to 64,000, Paint Your Life will give you that 20% off. Paint Your Life, celebrate the moments that matter most. Terms apply. You can read that at paintyourlife.com/terms. Again, text friendly to 64,000. Thank you for sponsoring the show.
Am I going to be able to see that when I have my weekly tea with your mom?
Yes, that's exactly how this show works.
Every Monday morning, me and Hemant's mom, whose name is Patty, sit down and have a little cup of tea and talk about Hemant and his life and how he's failed us both.
That is exactly how my life works.
Me and Patty have a very close relationship.
Okay, I wanted to run this by you. Tell me if this makes sense. This is from a Christian conspiracy theorist named Hank Kunneman. He says that this year is, we just celebrated July 4th. That marks the 245th year of America.
Is that the plastic present or twine present? Gold
yeah, I don't know
present.
what 245 is, but...
No, gold is 50.
Here's what he says. He says that is proof
Troglodyte.
Donald Trump is coming back to office.
Because he's the 45th president.
Because he's the 45th president.
And one means he's not going to have one term.
And yeah, it's 245th birthday. So the second, 2 terms for president, 45.
But he'd be 47, though.
If he comes back, that's a very interesting point to bring up that none of these 45 people ever listened to. But also, as Right Wing Watch pointed out, next year will be the 246th year of America's existence. Does that mean Joe Biden gets 2 terms? And for some reason, Hank Kunneman did not address that when he was telling us why he's coming back.
Well, also, it's not an election year.
Doesn't matter.
So just the fact that 245 just exists in the world?
Yeah.
Like, if I count the stairs on my steps, does that mean that's how many children I'm going to have?
I think we talked about this before, but I think during the college football championship game, like earlier this year, there's a pastor, Johnny Enlow, who's also a conspiracy theorist, and he held up the final score. Yes. Alabama won the game 52-24. I forgot if that was this year or the year. No, I think it was this year.
This year.
Alabama won 52-24. So he holds up a sign saying 24-52, circles the 4 and the 5 in the middle, and the 2's on the outside. He's like, see?
Fucking argue with that, nerds.
Trump's coming back. And you're like, you could do that with anything you want.
People are so dumb.
That's how delusions work.
Like, we're so pattern seeking. It is almost like, I'm shocked our race has lasted this long with how bad we are at seeking patterns.
Yes. Okay, I want to know your thoughts on this. There is a pro-life activist. His name is, I think, Nick Vujicic. I don't know how to say his last name. His name is Nick.
If he does not have a uterus, I am not that interested in hearing what he has to say.
His entire thing is he was born without arms or legs, so he doesn't have limbs, needs help along the way, and he presents himself as a motivational speaker, as like, I can overcome this, you could do anything. Okay, fine, cool. He's also proudly evangelical and speaks to mostly church audiences, which, all right, fine, you do you. But here's one thing that he did recently. He said on a website that he was doing some research and he found out that most of the big banks in America, he said, regularly donate to organizations that support the murder of babies through abortion. Okay, forget the rhetoric about the abortion. I'm like, when do, like, Chase?
Banks?
Yeah, when do banks donate to, like, Planned Parenthood?
And also, sorry, are we looking at banks to be, like, the bastions of morality in our culture? Who gives a fuck what banks do? They suck.
They also don't suck because of where their donations go. That's the thing. I don't even care about the banks here. It's like, where are you getting this information from that they're donating to abortion causes?
Okay, how did he phrase it exactly?
He said his bank that he used to use, his bank, along with most others, regularly donate to organizations that support the murder of babies through abortion.
That's a pretty loose word.
Yeah. As far as I could tell, and this is the only thing I've been able to figure out, a lot of the bigger banks, they tell their employees, if you make a donation to a nonprofit, we will match it.
Oh, sure.
But that applies to any nonprofit group. Theoretically, it could be the NRA if you wanted it to be, or whatever.
Could it be a church?
I think it has to be a registered federal nonprofit. I don't know if they allow churches or not in that. But whatever their policy is, they say if it's a nonprofit and it's okay, you donate there, we will match your donation because we want to support people giving to charity or whatever it is. That's the only thing I can imagine. Maybe employees of these banks gave to a place like Planned Parenthood, so Chase had to match it or something like that.
Sure.
And so this guy is saying, look, they're supporting abortion. Okay, whatever his broken brain reasoning is here, he is now starting his own bank. He's calling it...
I was going to sarcastically suggest he should just start his own bank.
It's called, wait for it.
I'm so excited.
Pro-Life Bank. One word.
Oh. Is it like camel case? Like, is the L and the B, are they capitalized?
Yes. PLB. That's the working title.
Oh, it is. That's not their final draft?
And on their website...
First thought, best thought, my dude. Come on. Trust your instincts.
One of his buddies, her name is Betsy Gray. She runs one of those Christian crisis pregnancy centers that's like a fake abortion clinic. But if you go in there, they don't actually help you.
I think we have one of those by our Planned Parenthood.
We may very well have. Yeah, so he's starting it with her. And here's what she says on their website. After 3 weeks of research, our board treasurer was quite shocked to report there was not such a bank in our city that doesn't support abortion. After much lamenting and prayer, I felt called by God to start a pro-life bank that not only supports the lives of unborn children, but also is aligned with all of God's principles.
You think they're FDIC insured?
Okay, so this is where I have all my questions.
You can't just start a bank.
Yeah, if I wanted to start a friggin' restaurant, I don't know what to do because I've never done it. So I would surround myself with people who know what they're doing. As far as I can tell, it's just these two and their buddies. Why would you be dumb enough? Let's say they get this off the ground.
This is going to turn into a pyramid scheme almost immediately. I guarantee it. Like, couldn't you see that happening of like, okay, everybody puts in $1,000 and then you have your checking account and you can get it out whenever you want, but you can't get it out for the first month. It has to sit there. And if you recruit other people into the bank, then that's going to up your limit. Like, this is going to be a pyramid scheme, period.
If it was, I would be like, all right, it's a scam. I've seen scams before. But here's the thing. They make it sound like they're doing this totally legit. I know every scam does that. But they say on the website, this will be, I'm quoting here, a full-service bank, FDIC insured. Like,
really?
That's what they're FDIC approved, which I don't know if that's the same thing or not. But basically,
no, that's definitely not the same thing.
There's so many things about, like, does your bank know how to do bank stuff?
Can I buy a checkbook from you? How would you go about making a checkbook?
Like I said, I don't know how to start a family restaurant if I wanted to, but I think step one would be get someone who has done it before and do it. I'm not going to some mom and pop bank if I can help it, even if they've been around for a while, because I don't know if you know what you're doing.
I'm obsessed with this.
Say this what you will about banks. Like, I've never thought twice about, like, well, is Chase safe? Like, it's fine. I never have to think about a bank account.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
I mean, we should, but we don't.
Right. I don't know what to make of this. I'm not even calling them scammers here. I'm just I don't trust any two people who are like, we're just starting a bank from scratch and we're doing it because we're Christian and we're going to make sure our bank isn't supportive of abortion.
A few things to talk about. First of all, I'm not accusing them of actually trying to scam people. I just think that as soon as they, like, quote unquote, get it up and running or whatever, they are accidentally going to have a pyramid scheme on their hands because they're going to have to keep bringing funds to, like, pay back people. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, I don't know a ton about banking either. I was illustriously fired from one a few years ago, but I did learn a little something while I was there, apparently not enough. I did learn, I don't think you as a bank can tell your constituents, your customers, how to spend their money. So
are they going to give like home mortgages and they're like, well, we're going to spy on you and if we know what you're doing in your spare time and we don't find it Christian.
If you run your debit card at Planned Parenthood, the fucking bank cops are coming for you.
What if you're a gay couple that wants to open a joint account? No? Is that just off the menu? I have so many questions about this. None of them. And by the way, I would be asking the exact same questions if any two people are like, we're just opening a bank.
The whole banks
us.
are too big to fail thing is obviously very destructive. Go ahead.
I mean, churches ask for 10%. These guys are like, give us all your money.
Right?
We got you.
Do you think they automatically withdraw tithes for their desired churches?
Like, so many questions. And by the way, their website is pretty much just their bios.
I was going to say, they say they're FDIC approved, which is a phrase I've never heard, but again, got fired from a bank.
FDIC insured.
FDIC, is there a seal for the FDIC, or does it just say the letters FDIC?
Here's what I found on their website. The name, a logo, their bios, and I did sign up for email updates because I want to know how the shit show's going down.
What does their logo look like?
It just says the words
in
blue font.
That I actually thought in my head it's going to be blue, I bet.
And who's going to fall for this? It's going to be like old people who don't know like that they're being sucked into a very bad web here.
Okay.
It's not going to end well, and I can't wait to see how they screw this up because there's no way this is going to work. It can't.
No, it won't.
You can't just start your own damn bank.
No.
Can you?
That is...
I don't know. Listen, if you've started a bank, get in touch with us.
Like, honestly, I kind of wish they had backtracked even further and started, like, a general store and just sold sacks of flour and stuff like that.
You can't run the Etsy shop well. I have questions about your bank. By the way, here's to make you feel better. Here's Nick a couple of, was it a month or two ago? It was a little while ago. He said one reason he's not an atheist is because he experienced God in his life. Because he felt the presence one time he was in a hotel, and he felt the presence of, and I'm quoting here, 10-foot tall demons, 5 foot wide, who walked in through my San Francisco hotel room. And that's it. He also said the reason he's starting his bank is because, this is from the recent article, once I got kicked out of a bank with no warning. They froze my credit cards, froze my debit cards. They gave me a letter to say they did a review of me as a client, and they don't want anything to do with me. And he says that to imply he's being persecuted for his conservative views.
That's not it, though.
Which is totally not it.
No.
That's not, like, do you know who the banks do business with? Anybody.
Literally anybody.
Like,
they will take your money so hard.
Like, they're canceling your account, presumably because there's a problem with the money you're spending or taking in, or, like, you're doing something shady. Or there's maybe a mistake. I don't know. But, like, I definitely don't trust the guy who's like, I'm going to start a bank from scratch, who had to have his account shut down by his real bank because they're like, we can't work with you anymore.
Do you think when Elizabeth Warren said she wanted to break the banks, that this is what she had in mind? Like,
they're fulfilling Elizabeth Warren's dream.
Mom and pop bank on every corner. Also, I looked it up. I don't think FDIC approved is anything unless it's just like part of their process that they like got approved to apply or something like that.
Go sign up. Join me in this bank.
Oh my God. Oh my God. It's going to be such a mess for them. Do you think it's going to be brick and mortar?
Versus just online?
Just online?
I don't know.
Just online would be smarter, but they're starting a bank, so they're not smart.
Like, how are they going to do
How do you do that?
And how are they going to F this up? There's
many
possible ways.
I am calling pyramid scheme. I'm throwing my hat over the fence on this one. It is going to be an accidental pyramid scheme.
Here's what's actually going to happen. They got a little bit of publicity from anti-abortion websites for saying they were going to do this.
Yeah.
And it's just not going to happen.
No.
It'll fade away. Nothing will come of it because they haven't done anything other than start up a website. And so my guess, nothing happens. No one. I've made a note to myself, like, go check back on this in a little while.
Like 6 months.
Yeah, right? Let's see how this is going.
I mean, I feel like if they wanted to do something financially irresponsible, they should have just started like a credit card. Seems more of a thing that somebody could just start, like a pro-life credit card, and all your fucking points or whatever go to.
Just say you're starting cryptocurrency and get money that way. That's
Listen,
a scam that works no matter what you're doing.
No rules anymore in the financial business. No rules. Just right. Just like Outback.
After we're done with this, we should talk about our own cryptocurrency. I don't know what that means, but I assume we could just start one.
Well, they'd be called FAPs for Friendly Atheist Podcast, and one FAP. Oh, gross!
Yeah,
I'm
nice
so
job.
sorry.
Nice job.
This is all on you. You named your fucking thing Friendly Atheist. I still have to do. I still have to talk to people in.
I knew that going into it too.
This really sweet woman who I've been volunteering with for like 5 years. She and I were talking, and I said something about. Because I was in Kentucky, and I was like, "Oh, I had a meet up for my podcast," which I thought I had told her about already. Yeah. And she was like, "Oh, what's your podcast?" And I was like, "Motherfucker, I thought we did this like 4 years ago," and she had just sort of lived with it. But she was like, okay. I don't think she hates me, but there's always a risk. I think it's really she would dislike me because I have a podcast and not because it's an atheist podcast.
I mean, that's just a good rule of thumb.
Yeah. Boy, we're deeply dislikable people, huh? Okay, go.
All podcast hosts are that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're just less male and white, prospectively.
This is a sad story. This happened a couple of years ago, and I covered it then. We may have talked about it then, but there's been an update. In 2018, there was an 18-year-old boy. His name is Mason. He took his own life. Really awful, really sad. His parents, Jeff and Linda, were thinking they're Catholic. They were going to have a Catholic funeral for their son. And for whatever reason, they got a local priest, not someone they knew personally, just a local priest to do the eulogy, to run the service. Okay. The guy's name is Reverend Don LaQuesta.
Is it at a Catholic church or is it at a funeral home?
At a Catholic church, I believe. Okay. I don't know if that's relevant, but he's running a Catholic service. And he just made everything worse. And imagine, like, not just a funeral, but, like, for your child. It's awful. He made everything worse. Besides, his parents did not tell the priest why their son died, how he died. It wasn't relevant. Talk about his life, right?
Right.
No, he brought up the word suicide multiple times. He also said his method of death could block him from getting into heaven.
I remember this.
Which... I think from his perspective, he's like, this is Catholic dogma. If you do that, you are in trouble with God.
If this, then that. That's how Catholicism works.
The Catechism of the Church says suicide is contrary to love for the living God, whatever.
That doesn't mean anything.
There's some language that offers leeway for people dealing with mental health in the Catechism, but like, I don't want to give them credit. But anyway, they were so upset because they asked this priest before the service to honor his life. Talk about how he lived, not how he died, which is not a weird thing to ask at all. And the parents told the news later, like, he was up, I'm quoting, he was up there condemning our son, pretty much calling him a sinner. He wondered if he had repented enough to make it to heaven.
Jesus.
There were actually a couple of younger boys who were Mason's age who left the church sobbing.
Yeah.
And this is according to the dad. People told me there was almost a smirk on his face as these people were walking out of the thing. So anyway.
Fuck this guy.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Jesus.
So this happened years ago. The parents sued him, the church that he belongs to, the diocese. Basically, they sued the priest, Our Lady of Mount Carmel Parish, and the Archdiocese of Detroit for $25,000 plus punitive damages and attorney's fees for the trauma that they put the parents through. And I remember hearing that and thinking, like, I feel horrible for the family for obvious reasons. And what happened was awful. I don't really know what your case is here. Because a priest can say whatever crazy shit he wants. And of course it's awful. I've spent the past 15 years trying to tell you how awful it is. Like, what did he do that's illegal? I don't know the answer to that. And causing trauma is horrible. Also not illegal. Just ask anyone who's been through a breakup. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so that was the question. Like, I don't really know if you're going to win here, even though I'm feeling for you. So they lost the lawsuit. They appealed the case. And now this week, the Michigan Court of Appeals just said, sorry, the earlier court was right.
Yeah.
They said in the decision, which was unanimous, Father LaQuesta's conduct was protected by the ecclesiastical abstention doctrine, basically saying we don't get involved with the way the church runs things. As such, the judge has said, we cannot pass judgment on the content of a sermon.
Isn't he a judge? That's all he does.
Pass
judgment.
We cannot pass judgment on this because it's a church thing. It's not a legal thing. Consequently, all of plaintiff's claims necessarily fail.
Which makes sense to me.
Which does make sense. Like, church doesn't get involved. I mean, but again, I think if there's any takeaway here, which is not a legal takeaway, it's don't expect a religious leader to be a decent human.
Well,
they can be. They don't have to be.
I know.
And the Catholic Church over and over shows us
know
why
this
they're not.
dude? Like, did they attend?
I don't know. I don't know what their relationship was with the diocese, if they were practicing, if they were, which a lot of people are, like, I'm Catholic. I don't go to church, but I am Catholic.
Yeah.
And if something bad happens,
I want a Catholic.
I want a Catholic something, because I'm used to that.
Right.
Maybe that was their relationship, but they clearly didn't know this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as I can tell, the church, the diocese had said at the time, we're not going to let him do any more funerals. That was their public response to this.
So brave.
But that's it. They didn't get rid of the guy.
Did they admit that what he said was wildly inappropriate?
I think they did at the time, and they said, as a result, we're not going to let him do funerals. But again, they didn't say he was wrong. Mm-hmm. They didn't say, because again, you could point to the catechism and say everything he said is by the book.
Right.
It's just horrible. There's plenty of stuff in the Catholic Church I could say that about. I know it's in your rules, doesn't make it right.
Yeah. The last time I went to a funeral was at a Catholic church, and a friend of mine who died by suicide. And Jesus, if he had tried to pull that shit, I would have lost. Well, I would have left. I probably wouldn't have rushed to the altar or whatever. Isn't it an altar? Pulpit.
Sure.
Anyway.
This is
what a nightmare.
Different story you can make fun of this guy and you'll feel good about it.
Yay!
Do you remember Matt Powell? He's the creationist who made a video a little while ago that said evolution is racist.
Yes.
Because evolution says we evolved from African Americans, but African Americans are still alive today. And how do you think that makes them feel?
Fundamental misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Can I just
I don't even want to talk about that, but that's what he said before. And it's first of all, we didn't descend from African Americans.
Well,
that's not how it works.
An important thing. Okay, I'm so sorry. I can't not say this. I think an important thing that people often misunderstand about evolution is this idea that evolution was leading toward something, as if
there's no end goal with human at the end.
Exactly. So to say, quote unquote, we evolved from monkeys, but monkeys still exist, which is at best reductive.
Right.
Doesn't mean we are better than monkeys, so we have bypassed the need for monkeys as a planet. It just means that we continued evolving down a different path, and that's okay. You know how I'm only 5'4", I stopped growing after 5'4", but my husband's 5'11", he kept growing. He's not more evolved than me. He just grew on a different path.
Giraffes are more evolved than all of us.
I don't know if that was a great metaphor.
It's okay. Here's his latest one. Tell me if you want to break.
Okay, I'm ready.
I don't have the transcript in front of me, so I'm going to honestly paraphrase what he's getting at, because I do think this is accurate to what he's trying to say.
Okay, I'm excited.
He said, evolutionists, that was his word, evolutionists say they want to save endangered species, which is true. Sometimes we do say that, let's save the whatevers. He said,
whatever. You couldn't think of a single animal.
Pandas?
Sure.
Sure.
Giant pandas.
He says, because you want to save endangered species, that means there are endangered species. There are species that are going extinct. That's part 2 of that argument. There are species going extinct, which no one's denying. Okay. All right, here's where it gets weird. But according to evolution, I'm quoting here, according to evolution, species should be getting created all the time, ... through natural selection.
Species are being created all the time?
Yeah, I guess his thinking is if evolution is true, then new species pop out every couple days or something like that.
Oh, is he a young Earth creationist?
Yeah.
Okay. So that explains a lot about his terrible
where do we get all
plan.
these animals from? Because evolution creates them all the time from nothing.
If we've only been around for 6,000 years, we need new species of ants every 15 seconds.
Yeah. And I think his argument here is that why are you worried about species that go extinct? Because through evolution, new ones will appear. So what are you so upset about? And here's what I think he's getting at. He's getting at you want to save those species because deep down, you know that no new species are getting created, so you gotta save the ones you have. Ha, checkmate. You don't believe in evolution. Here's what he actually said.
Wowza.
By trying to save the animals, evolutions are admitting, quote, evolution will never invent these new species through natural selection.
Okay.
I had to take a while to process how many ways he got that wrong.
Thinks that the Earth lives with a one in, one out policy of species.
Yes, and because evolution isn't poofing new monkeys into existence and new gorillas and rhinos and pandas, we have to save them at all costs. Because I think he thinks, so what if the black rhino disappears?
Right.
You'll just get a new species. Isn't that how evolution works? That's how he thinks we think.
Wow. Okay. I have to say that at first I thought he was almost driving to a salient point, and I had a really good argument against the point I thought he was making.
What did you think he was going to go with?
So I thought he was going with, so you believe in evolution. You think that, nature has created these species. But if these species are going extinct, that means it's natural for them to die off, and you trying to quote unquote save.
Why are you going against nature?
Exactly. And so I had a lot of shit teed up for that. But apparently he didn't even bother making a smart argument, which I think that would be an argument worth making. The argument against it is for sure, well, humans live here now and we make it our business to fuck shit up. So it's not like they just happened to go extinct. We killed all the dodo birds. They didn't just all die one day.
And I was trying, okay, why are we trying to save endangered species? There's a few different reasons. I mean, just to point off a few that I could think of immediately.
It's one of God's creatures?
You could argue that if you're a creationist.
Yep.
If God poofed all these animals into existence, wouldn't you want to save them too? But I want to be clear, he is not arguing against saving endangered species. That wasn't the purpose of his thing.
Correct.
He's just saying, I think, doesn't it show something weird about the fact that you care about Okay, so I don't want to argue why we shouldn't save endangered species, because that's not what he's arguing.
Of course not.
Why would we want to save them? One, because maybe they look awesome. They're aesthetically pleasing. You like the pandas. You like the rhinos or the elephants.
Hey, pandas are really fucking cute.
Yeah, so maybe you want to save them for that reason. But even scientifically, they belong to an ecosystem. If you lose a part of a large ecosystem, who knows what the ripple effects of that could be, and who suffers because a certain animal or part of the food web isn't there anymore.
Yeah, especially alpha predators like lions, tigers, etc.
We don't want to lose them. We don't know what could happen. Another reason is these things have evolved as long as everything else has. There may be something in their genes that makes them immune to something or another. There may be secrets hidden in their genetic code that we haven't figured out yet that we could harness and use in some meaningful way, maybe soon. But if those creatures are gone, we will not know that, and we won't have access to that. Those are, off the top of my head, those are reasons we might want to save endangered species. We're not doing it for shits and giggles.
Right.
And also, these aren't, like you said, they're not naturally dying off. We're poaching some of these animals.
Yeah.
We are
tearing down their habitats.
Are making them extinct. It's not even an asteroid here anymore. So that's why we want to save them. Also, species that they don't just get magically created by evolution.
Yeah, and I think when I think of evolution, I tend to think of insects and rodents and very small animals, because that seems to be where we see more speciation in terms of these ants are technically very similar, but they can't reproduce, so they're technically two different species, which is, I think, how species work, but I'm not... Speciation.
Yeah, there may be catastrophic events or things that are out of our control that lead species to develop and stuff. I'm not going to try to biologize my way out of this because I'm going to get it wrong.
Right.
But the point is, evolution is always occurring. It's occurring slowly. It's occurring imperceptibly to us. Right. We are evolving now. Right. It doesn't mean we're all suddenly going to be new species tomorrow.
Right.
But evolution is happening. Species occur, but again, the point is you're not gonna get that rhino back.
Right, but what I was trying to say is that sure, maybe at the same time as the black rhino goes extinct, somehow like we see a new strain of ants. But we're not going to see, like, even if it is a one in, one out policy, which again,
It's
isn't. It's not as if they're going to put in they being evolution, I guess. A new large mammalian grazer isn't going to exist. It's going to be like a fucking dung beetle.
Matt Powell has said this in other videos, which shows his ignorance on evolution, which is that he thinks all mutations are always bad inherently. It's the word mutate. It's like, no, some mutations...
he's just seen X-Men too many times.
Yeah, it's like, no, mutations aren't necessarily bad. They help us grow and evolve, as a species. But
we say using our human mouths with tongues and lips.
there's a famous thought experiment about evolution.
Okay.
I think Stephen Jay Gould is the guy who really popularized this, but the question, and I think Dawkins has written about it in The God Delusion, or no, not in The God Delusion, one of his other books.
Probably The Greatest Show on Earth.
Maybe. He said, the question goes like this, like if you could rewind time from when that first single-celled organism was alive, if you could basically rewind the tape of evolution and start over, what would we see today? Like, how would our species, or any species, how would the world evolve? How would living organisms evolve if you could start over? And the way they talk about it is saying, like, look, pretty much every living creature has sight. We don't have the same looking eyes, per se, but sight seems like something that would develop.
But similar, everything. Two of them in most cases.
Maybe. Some creatures have more. Some creatures do it differently.
Sure.
But perceiving the light rays, that is a thing that seems pretty universal. Flight seems like a pretty universal trait that would evolve over time. But the whole point is, would you see humans again the way we know us today if you rewound the tape and started over? Probably not, and definitely not in the way we are presented today with the same look and sound and feel or whatever.
Yeah.
We would start over from scratch. You would see a very different world. And that's another reason you want to preserve these endangered species. Because again, if you lose that animal, you're not getting it back. You're not getting a close relative back. There are other species that are created, but it's not the same. Right. So as much as you can prevent it, you don't want to lose these things. He doesn't get any of that. And the thing is, he's making up these definitions of evolution that no actual evolutionary biologist would accept. Then he doubles down on it, makes a video where he's like, I totally know this. To me, he sounds like one of those intro to physics students who's like, I think every astrophysicist is wrong about relativity. And that's the right reaction right there, where it's like, it's not that they're always right about everything. It's that of all the people to challenge them on it, you're not the person.
Right.
You don't know what you are talking about.
Right.
And that's how every video by this guy feels. Oh, by the way, I didn't even get to the last part of his 2-minute video. This is all a 2-minute video, and about 30 seconds was pure fluff. At the end of his video, here's the message he has for his creationist viewers. I'm quoting here. What atheists are admitting to is that they're making up I need to go back. He said, you know what else about atheists? Like, they don't, if you ask them, what's your purpose in life? You know what they're going to say? We all make our own purpose in life, as opposed to him because he's living for God or whatever. So he says, what atheists are admitting is that they're making up or make-believing a purpose for life. They don't think there actually is any purpose, and so they say, well, I'll just make up a purpose. That's make-believe, folks. These people are make-believers.
No.
And that's his reason for why no one should listen to atheists. The guy who believes Adam and Eve were two legitimate first people in the world is like, these other people make-believe things. You shouldn't trust them.
Yeah, I don't like this kind of bullshit. I don't like that kind of like, so they're making it up, so they're make-believers. So, like... To what end?
Fiction writers make things up. They're make-believers, people. Don't listen to them.
Like, just genuinely, though, like, what point was he trying to make? To what end? Go fucking poach a rhino? Like, it doesn't matter. Who cares? Like, to what end? Besides, I just want to disagree with any liberal view, which is save the planet and save. This man is making an argument against preserving animals.
I'm stopping you there. Oh. He's not making an argument against, because I saw this in a bunch of comments, he's not making an argument against, like, not saving the species. He's not saying, no, let's kill them off. He's not saying that.
Us doing that makes us hypocrites.
Yes, that's his point.
Well, I mean, listen.
Like, he's wrong, but for different reasons.
It's less aggressively evil than go hunt a rhino, which was I thought his thesis statement was. But
this
it's
is the same guy who once saw a
great.
Photoshop, like, from a TV show, fictional show, of a bunch of guys from the Civil War, quote unquote, like, because they were dressed up that way. There was a black and white photo of guys from the Civil War with a pterodactyl in front of them. It was for a TV show that was mocking that idea. And he's like, that photo proves that dinosaurs and humans lived at the same time.
You're fucking lying to me.
That's what he actually said. And everyone's like, it's from a TV show. It's not real. That's not a real photo of something from like 150 some years ago.
Oh my God.
And he did not understand that.
No. Listen, I am not going to accept that he didn't understand that. He just refused to back down when he realized he was wrong. Hemant, you know how low my opinion is of all of these people. I refuse
saw the picture,
to believe that this man truly in his heart believes that we have a photograph of men during the Civil War with a pterodactyl. Think of all the things I just said and how dumb all of them are.
It's well documented what show that was created.
What show
for.
was it? I'm looking for
I
a
don't
new show.
But it's look up pterodactyl.
Civil War.
Yeah,
Probably
you'll
really
find
narrow down my choices.
You'll figure out the real story behind that. All right, one last one for you.
Yes.
And I don't want to. I'm skipping another story. I want to get to this one though. We've talked about those residential schools in Canada. They have these mass grave sites, which is awful. These residential schools were predominantly Catholic-run institutions that wanted to commit cultural genocide, take Indigenous kids in the fold
Treat yourself.
and basically convert them into Catholicism. And if you get sick, and by the way, these places are not sanitary and you die, don't worry, we got a hole in the back.
I'm not concerned.
And they're
about that.
finding these remains of these bodies.
They basically built H.H. Holmes' murder castle, but around Canada.
Yes. And so there's a media outlet called the American Conservative, which, all right.
That bodes well.
One of the writers, Declan Leary, wrote an essay about these residential schools. I'm going to read you the title of his piece, which is innocuous. It says, "The Meaning of the Native Graves." I'm actually looking for the article, making sure it's still there. It would be interesting if it suddenly got deleted.
Oh, I would love that.
No, here it is. The Meaning of the Native Graves. Subtitle. Are you ready for this? Subtitle.
Yep, got it.
They're good, actually. He wrote...
Wait.
Yes.
Hold on.
Yes.
Okay, just tell me.
Yes. He's basically saying this child mortality for Indigenous peoples is like...
Good, actually.
You're
going to talk, and I'm going to top up my wine.
You drink. Speaking of Janine Pirro.
You motherfucker.
You're welcome. So, his argument goes like this. Here's why he says they're good. He says, look, child mortality for Indigenous people were high at the time, so the deaths weren't shocking. Jesus. The church-run schools were underfunded by the government, so you should actually be blaming the government, not the church. And the grave sites are just cemeteries.
Oh,
calm down,
suck
people.
My dick.
And then he says, people die, and when they die, you put them in the ground. There's nothing inherently scandalous about this. And here's where he says they're good. Right now, he's just saying they're not bad. This is normal. Here's where he gets to, here's why they're good, according to him. The certain fact that souls were saved by the missionaries.
Ooh, actually, Hammett, I need you to leave my house if you're going to bring this garbage.
I'm finishing the sentence. Here's why they were a net positive. The certain fact that souls were saved by the missionaries, the enduring belief of Christians that the gospel is true and must be spread is paramount. Everything else is secondary. ... Baptized Christians, by which he means these Indigenous kids who were kidnapped and taken to these places.
Ostensibly murdered.
Baptized Christians were given Christian burials. Whatever natural good was present in the piety and community of the pagan past is an infinitesimal fraction of the grace rendered unto those pagans' descendants who have been received into the Church of Christ. Whatever sacrifices were exacted in pursuit of that grace, the suffocation of a noble pagan culture, an increase in disease and bodily death due to government negligence, even the sundering of natural families is worth it. That's seriously his argument for Christian genocide. He made it.
Okay.
Their grave sites are good. That article is still up on their website.
Who published this?
The American Conservative.
Oh, so it wasn't like a real news site.
Well,
I mean, in certain circles. So sometimes, Hemant, I think about why we do this podcast.
I think that every time.
Well, okay.
By the way, you can go to Patreon, right?
Okay, well, I think we're having different conversations. I think you just genuinely do not like me or this podcast, whereas I'm thinking, are we just preaching to the choir and just punching down on Matt Powell and like religious people who make bad decisions out of ignorance and misguidance?
I didn't even get to the story about the Christian who caused a crash because they literally let Jesus take the wheel.
That's not real.
That's real.
I mean, you have to stop bringing satire into my home.
Sorry. No one was hurt. Her daughter was in the car.
No! How old?
11.
Jesus Christ.
She's
that child could talk!
She's okay, but...
Not that it's a child.
Anyway, back to indigenous grave sites and why they're good.
Okay, anyway, so I think about why we do this podcast. Is an overcrowded marketplace? Are there enough people saying what we're saying as good or better? But boy, this article really kind of brings it home about why we do this, because this man genuinely believes that the lives of, how many do we have? It
was over 1,000
Over 1,000
at the 3 schools where they declared we have found grave sites.
So he thinks that...
And it's not all children, but a lot of children.
Sure. He thinks that the lives of this 1,000 or so Native children is fair play and something we can disregard, because he believes that in their short and miserable lives, where they were treated like shit by the people who were told that they were there to save them, they allowed them to die, and that's okay because they did a cool cross formation with their hand and said some fancy words over it. Like, they genuinely believe that our lives are not as important, our physical lives where I can see you and pet my dog and kiss my husband, those lives are less important than this hypothetical spiritual afterlife. And the unfortunate thing is those kids didn't get to make that decision. Mm-hmm. So I guess what I'm saying here is this podcast is going to go on forever. You're trapped with me for the rest of our lives, Hemant.
There's no shortage of stories.
Yeah. Wow, that is a real bummer to end this show on.
I was like, do I have any other stories here? No, they're all bummers.
Jessica's smiling too much. I have to put an end to this. Boy, oh boy, what a fucking monster. What's that dude's name? I'm going to punch him in the virtual face.
It's just conservatives. I mean,
yeah, that's fair. I don't need to pick pick the weak one off. They're all weak and terrible.
Where do we find you?
Jesus, going back to bed now.
Yeah, right.
It's only 4:07. I've had a glass and a half of wine. You can find me on Twitter always. I'm at Jess Blimke. You can come to my... Actually, don't come to my Etsy shop right now. I'm so tired of cross-stitching. I'm working on this really sweet cross-stitch of this guy's sweet dog, and it's so much harder than I thought it was going to be, and I've genuinely been cross-stitching 12 hours a day for the last 3 days. So just go to Patreon if you want to support me. I don't want to cross-stitch anymore. Don't forget, wow, that was a fun pivot. Hey, if you're in the Denver area, meet me and my dog, forgot that, who's asleep right over there, and my husband will be in Arvada at someplace else brewery. I think it's at 4:00, but I'm concerned my phone changed it to Central Time, so it's either 4 or 5 o'clock. Just show up. We'll be there. Hemant, where can we find you on the internet?
I am at Hemant Meta on Twitter. Go to friendlyatheist.com. If you like this show, go to patreon.com/friendlyatheistpodcast. Mm-hmm. And there's a Facebook group. Link to that is in the show notes.
There's a Facebook group. And the Fat Cat, the Chicago meetup, I will have that posted by the time this goes out. Also, if you're looking for something else to listen to while we were in Kentucky, my husband Mikey and I recorded an episode of our podcast, Cooper Duper, about the David Lynch film Wild at Heart. And we were in Kentucky, so we recorded it it was me, my husband, my best friend Leslie from college, and her fiance Jeff, who is a camera operator. And so we talked a lot about that movie and movies in general, and just it was a fun conversation. It was like 3 hours. It was just like four people who haven't been in the same room for a year and a half, just talking at each other. It was great. It was so fun. Anyway, that's the end. You have to go pick up your children.
Do it.
All right. No,
We'll talk.
you're gonna do it.
Ah, fine. All
Bye.
right. Bye.